Hi everyone, Aaron here for Zolotech, and there's been a lot of news this week with the upcoming iPhones, from the iPhone 17 to the even future release of iPhone Fold, some new iPads, Macs, and then of course iOS updates. This is your weekly Apple News update for the week of June 29th, 2025. Now, an Apple store is reopening on Long Island at Roosevelt Field. You can see it here where on their website it says, "Get ready, great things are in store. A brand new Apple store is coming soon. Until then, please visit us at our temporary location." So we should get a new one soon in Roosevelt Field. Hopefully that will be open fairly soon. And if you live in this area, I'd love to hear from you once it opens, what it's like, and maybe talk to you about it. Now, as far as the Mac, it seems like it's selling better than ever according to new data from Canalys. It seems that in just the first quarter of 2025, Mac shipments were increasing 28.7%, now at 16% market share. So that's a big increase year over year, and it looks like it's not stopping. So many people are switching to Macs or just upgrading their Mac in general. Apple this week celebrated 10 years of Apple Music, so if we go into our Apple Music, you can see they have a celebration of it, along with a new replay of all time. It goes through all of your library and replays your largest listened to songs. If we go into here, you can see the overall list. Just go down through it and see what we have. So all time, there's lots of different ones, the top 100 out of all of your entire library. And there's more details on their website about it as well. Apple's really been pushing their F1 movie, not only in the TV app where they have the trailer here, they had a haptic trailer, you can purchase tickets, but also in the Wallet app, which really annoyed some people, saying where you could get a discount purchasing the tickets. However, it did break a bunch of records over the weekend, reaching over $50 million in North America and over $140 million worldwide. So it seems to be a smash hit, and I haven't seen it yet, but I was waiting to watch it in Vision Pro, but let me know if you think I should check it out in the theater if you've seen it. And speaking of Apple Vision Pro, it seems Apple has been pushing out surveys to some Apple Vision Pro users, asking about features, accessories, and competing devices. Apple also asked about smart glasses from Meta and Amazon, maybe hinting at where they're going in the future. I definitely think the Apple Vision Pro has a long way to go to be in regular households, as well as something that people want to use regularly. But if it was in glasses forms, I definitely see more people using it. But let me know what you think of Vision Pro in the comments below. One thing I wanted to warn you about before we talk about some more things is watchOS 26 Beta 2. If you haven't heard already, you shouldn't really install it on an Hermes watch. I talked about this in my watchOS 26 Beta 2 is out what's new video, but basically if you have an Hermes watch, it can go into a boot loop and not work properly. So that's something Apple has acknowledged, needs to fix, and I just wanted to make sure you were aware if you were thinking of trying it out on an Apple Watch Hermes edition. So don't do it on there. I haven't seen any problems with things such as the Apple Watch Ultra or others. It's just the Hermes watch according to Apple. Now, as far as apps, one thing I wanted to mention has to do with the app Delta. The app Delta has been around for a while, making it easy to try different games on your phone that are available on different consoles if you own them. However, it looks like the creator of this app is making a new app that allows you to have the Game Boy camera experience with iPhone called Delta Camera. So if you ever had a Game Boy camera or you've been around long enough to own one of those, they actually will have that experience in the iPhone soon as well. Now, when it comes to apps this week, well, Apple acquired Pixelmator Pro and finally released its first major update since they acquired it and gave good notes within what's new. So the notes actually talk about things such as Apple Intelligence being added, bug fixes, as well as improvements to things such as accessibility features with hover text and voiceover. So it's great to see them updating it, and hopefully they'll add more notes to things such as iOS updates as well. Another thing that goes along with Apple Watch is Google finally released a calendar app for it. So if you use Google Calendar, you'll now have the option to use the calendar on your watch. So it's pretty simple. If you go into it, you'll see there's not a whole lot here. It just says Independence Day coming up here, and that's about it. But it is the calendar app on your watch if you wanted to use that, and it's a free download. Another thing has to do with WhatsApp. WhatsApp, of course, being a super popular messaging app, had a great update this past week, and you'll see it here where it says catch up on conversations with private message summaries. It utilizes AI to summarize messages like Apple Intelligence, but using their own secure network to do that, and privately gives you a quick summary of what's going on in your conversations. So that's available, and I'll link this in the description if you want to check out exactly how it works, as Meta explains it here. Now, as far as weekly Apple deals, this week we have the MacBook Air M4 up to $175 off on Amazon. The Apple Pencil Pro is down to $99. We also have updates for AirPods Max USB-C, which are down to about $479.99. iPad Mini 7 is $100 off, and iPad Pro is over $300 off currently. So I'll link all of those in the description below if you'd like to see the latest deals. And last week I actually asked if I should continue sharing those deals, and many of you said I should. And so those are the deals this week. Now, as far as releases, well, many people keep asking me about iOS 18.5.1. And based on what we've seen so far, it looks like there's no sign of it. No one's reported on it. We haven't had the normal signs that there will be an update, with the exception of Apple no longer signing previous versions of iOS. So the only version you can download or install is iOS 18.5, along with betas for iOS 18.6 and iOS 26. So it's a bit odd. We're still waiting for an update, but it looks like Apple's working on iOS 18.6 instead. I would expect some updates pretty soon for iOS 26 Beta 3, probably releasing on Monday the 7th. That's typically what Apple does. Then maybe later that week or the following week, we'll get iOS 26 Public Beta 1. Sometimes we get a re-release along with that as well for developers. And then, of course, you can install that and try it out for yourself. It should be much more stable at that point. Then we'll have a couple more months of betas, which I can't believe we've only got a couple months left. A couple months of betas until a public release, typically in mid-September, around the iPhone 17 launch. So it looks like no iOS 18.5.1 so far. We're just waiting for iOS 26, which will probably be out by the end of July at this point. But again, no specific timeline is there. Now, with iOS 26, Apple has been more cautious to announce features this year at WWDC that will actually meet the fall release timeline. Mark Gurman this week noted that the live translation AirPods feature is actually something that's included, but just wasn't announced. So that's something we should see by the time it releases to the public. And the other feature, which I've already mentioned before, is the syncing of public Wi-Fi networks, such as hotels, or maybe you're just on a Wi-Fi network at a library. It can remember that password and sync across devices. That was there before, but it looks like they never announced it, just to make sure they could finish it in time, it seems. Now, of course, Apple is still working on things such as Siri, getting that right, and there's some different rumors about that we'll talk about in the weekend follow-up video. Now, when it comes to iPhone 17, a new screen protector leaked by Majin Buu on X shows that the camera may be on the left side of the Face ID sensor. Now, that would be more specific to the iPhone 17 Air, but we're not seeing any difference on the dummy models, but probably it's moved around based on what they have, just to make room for things internally. So that makes a lot of sense. If they need to move it around, they definitely could. And the iPhone 17 camera bar actually looks a lot better in black when compared to these dummy models. It looks like it just kind of fits a little bit better. We could have a gloss camera bar with maybe a matte finish on the back, or maybe a gloss back with a matte camera bar, or maybe some combination of the two. So let me know what you think of it in black. I think it looks a little bit better than these dummy models, maybe a little bit more finished as well, but let me know in the comments below. It also seems that the Apple logo may move once again on the back of the iPhone, according to Majin Buu and Sonny Dixon on X. Basically, they need to make room for the MagSafe magnets, but then they could relocate the Apple logo. They've done this before. It's not unlike them to move it around if they need to in the past, so maybe they'll relocate it, but you can see what it looks like here. So that's something that we'll probably see changed. We don't have any specifics on it, exactly where it would be, but at one point it was centered, then they've moved it before, and maybe they're just moving it to another location. Now, when it comes to the next iPhone, the iPhone Fold, it's nearing production, and the latest leak from Digital Chat Station on Weibo claims the back of the iPhone Fold will have two 48-megapixel cameras. This seems likely due to Apple already using 48-megapixel cameras, of course, so it's not much of a surprise, but they'll only have two instead of three. The Fold is also underway as far as getting its prototypes done and getting ready for a release in 2026. A new report from Digitime says that Apple's iPhone Fold is in the prototyping phase, or phase 1, as of June, with it expected to complete that at the end of the year and enter production in mid-2026. However, some have suggested it may be further along than that, and we could see a different release, since there's sort of going to be different release timeframes supposedly throughout the year going forward. So we'll have to wait and see what they do, but we definitely know they're working on it at this point. Apple's also working on the next chipsets, and that goes along with the iPad. The next iPad Pro is expected to feature the M5 chipset and expected to release later this year. LG and Samsung, who produce the OLED displays for the iPad Pro models, have already started production of the new display for the upcoming iPads. and the new iPads could have an even thinner bezel due to the chip on the film of the overall display. So we could have a super thin bezel. However, I don't know that that's necessary, as you do really need some place to put your thumb if you want to hold on to it without maybe blocking the display. So maybe changing that a little bit makes sense, but I like that they have the little sidebar here where we have the camera. There's no notch or anything like that. So changing the bezel a ton doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but maybe a little bit just to bring it out a little bit. But let me know what you think of that. Also, a new Mac was recently spotted in code with A18 Pro chipsets found by Mac Rumors. Ming-Chi Kuo has also announced Apple is planning to release a lower-cost MacBook powered by an iPhone chipset. So we could see the A18 Pro in a new upcoming MacBook, maybe a 12-inch MacBook, we don't really know, but a lower-cost MacBook either way. And every few years, Apple designs a new MacBook, and the next one is said to have OLED for the display. It's expected in 2026 and recently leaked by analyst Linda Lin at Omdia, basically saying that the OLED MacBook Pro is expected with all the benefits of the iPad Pro OLED, but the removal of the notch at the top. I know a lot of people would appreciate that, so hopefully we'll see that maybe next year. Usually every 3 years or so, they release a new MacBook Pro, so we can expect something similar. Now, we've been waiting for new AirPods for quite some time, maybe AirPods with a camera in them to aid with maybe something such as Apple Intelligence or health features, and it looks like they may be coming fairly soon. Apple updated its code base on Thursday with mentions in numeric form to a new audio product that is not yet released. Speculations have many believing that it's the long-rumored AirPods Pro 3, and they could be much closer than originally thought. So that's something we could see hopefully before the end of the year. Either way, I do think they're working on them, but these are pretty reasonable right now, so it may be better off just going with AirPods Pro 2 for a while. Also, Apple's working on updated AirTags 2, and we keep hearing more and more about this. An update to AirTags, probably called AirTags 2, was found in the code of iOS 18.6 by 9to5Mac, and it's rumored to release in September. So they're said to improve things such as connectivity, better security, and have better battery. So I don't know that you need much of an update other than that, but we could see that fairly soon. Now, we've heard of Apple continuing work on Apple Vision Pro. Ming-Chi Kuo this week detailed sort of a roadmap of 7 new Vision products. For 2025, he expects to refresh Vision Pro with an M5 chipset, so maybe the same form factor with updated chipset internally. Also, Apple Smart Glasses and Apple Vision Air are expected maybe in 2027, according to Kuo. A second-gen Vision Pro is expected for 2028, along with Apple XR glasses, and then 2029 and beyond would bring Apple XR glasses second-gen, as well as a tethered display device. Now, we've heard differing timelines according to different leakers, but they're definitely working on a bunch of different products going forward. Now, I would love to see these maybe in a glasses form factor, but I think we're a ways away from getting all of the technology in something this big to something as small as glasses. So we'll have to wait and see what they do with that, maybe tethered to an iPhone to provide the processing power or something along those lines. But either way, they're working on some new products. Let me know if you would wear a Vision Pro all day or maybe glasses all day if it had some of the same capabilities. So that's everything this week with the latest Apple news. Of course, we expect more next week with new features and updates to iOS 26, and of course the public beta nearing very soon. Let me know what you're looking most forward to in the comments below, and of course I'll link this wallpaper in the description like I normally do. If you haven't subscribed already though, please subscribe, and if you enjoyed the video, please give it a like. As always, thanks for watching. This is Aaron. I'll see you next time.